All right, let's dive into a really unique and honestly vital type of business coverage: commercial inland marine insurance. You could call it insurance on the move, and its story is way more interesting than you might think.
So think about it for a second. Your standard business policy, right? It's perfect for covering your office building or your retail store. But what do you do about all the valuable stuff that doesn't just sit in one place? I mean, how in the world do you insure property that doesn't even have a mailing address?
And this is a huge challenge for a lot of businesses. We're talking about a contractor's expensive power tools that travel from job site to job site, or a critical shipment of merchandise that's on a truck halfway across the country, or even something massive and stationary like a communication tower out in the middle of nowhere. These things aren't buildings, but they are absolutely essential assets that have to be protected.
So this exact problem led to a really clever solution. And the interesting thing is, it didn't start on land. The whole idea was actually borrowed from the world of ocean cargo shipping and then adapted for everything happening inland.
And this gave birth to the concept of floating property. Now, that doesn't mean it's literally floating on water. It just means the insurance coverage itself isn't stuck to one physical address. It floats right along with the property wherever it goes. The key is that connection to either transportation or communication.
So this is where that original idea split into two different paths. You have ocean marine, which is the classic original insurance for goods traveling on a ship, and then you have inland marine, which is the logical next step. It was created to protect that exact same cargo once it was off the ship and traveling overland by truck or by train.
Okay, so as you can imagine, this could all get a little confusing pretty fast. To keep everything organized and avoid arguments over which policy should cover what, the National Association of Insurance Commissioners, you'll see them called the NAIC, they stepped in. They created a formal definition to classify all these different types of mobile risks. And what they came up with were just six official categories to cover all the eligible risks. This framework is basically the rulebook for how everything is organized. So hey, if you're studying for a licensing exam, you absolutely need to know how these six are grouped together. It's crucial.
And here is how that whole system breaks down. It's actually pretty simple when you see it like this. Categories 1 and 2, imports and exports, well, that's classic ocean marine insurance. Then jump all the way to the bottom to Category 6. That's for personal stuff, like your jewelry or fine art. So that leaves the three right there in the middle: domestic shipments, instrumentalities, and commercial floaters. That's the heart of what we're talking about today. That is commercial inland marine insurance.
So, to really nail it down, when we talk about commercial inland marine, we are focusing on these three core things: goods that are being shipped within the country, big infrastructure projects like bridges and tunnels, and all that movable business equipment. Okay, so now we know what gets covered, but let's talk about how it gets covered. I mean, like any kind of insurance, it all comes down to the policy forms. And in the inland marine world, there are basically two main flavors.
On one side, you have controlled forms. You can think of these as the standardized, off-the-shelf policies. They're filed with the state, so everybody's using the same language for common risks. And then you have the non-controlled forms. This is where individual insurance companies get to write their own rules, creating custom policies for more unique or really complex situations. But no matter which form is used, these policies all share some really key features. For one, they're usually written on an open peril basis, which is great. It means they cover pretty much everything unless it's specifically excluded. And most importantly, the coverage isn't chained to one building. It literally moves with the property, which makes it incredibly flexible.
Now let's go back to that word instrumentalities, because this is where it gets really cool. This category is such a fascinating exception to that whole portability rule. I mean, a bridge doesn't move, right? So why is it covered by insurance on the move? Well, it's because a loss to that bridge can bring transportation and communication to a screeching halt, which affects countless other floating properties. It's the critical stationary link in a very mobile chain.
So, what happens when something actually does go wrong? Let's say you're a business owner and you have to file a claim on one of these policies. Well, you have a very clear set of responsibilities you've got to follow. The process itself is pretty straightforward, but every step is critical. The business owner has to give prompt notice, let the insurance company know right away. If a law might have been broken, you got to call the police. You have to take steps to stop things from getting worse, make a list of everything that was damaged, cooperate with the investigation, and then finally, send in that formal proof of loss statement when they ask for it. The policy is also really specific about how you get paid. A loss is usually valued at its actual cash value, or ACV, which basically means the value of the item minus depreciation for wear and tear. Once everyone agrees on a settlement number, the insurer has 30 days to pay up. And if there happens to be another policy that covers the same loss, this one will either split the cost or pay on top of the other one, depending on the situation.
And all of this, all these rules and definitions, it brings us to a tragic but incredibly powerful real-world example. The recent collapse of the Francis Scott Key Bridge in Baltimore is a perfect, devastating illustration of an instrumentality of transportation being destroyed. The impact wasn't just about the loss of the bridge itself. It was that massive ripple effect, the incredible delays in shipping and commerce. It's just a stark reminder of why this unique, floating insurance is so absolutely essential to keeping our very interconnected world on the move.